Hi everyone, this is part 2 of the mini-series, Why Isn't This Evidence? And I want to talk to you about miracles. Usually when we talk about miracles, we want to define what it means, and there's two basic definitions of miracles that I've encountered in common everyday discussions. However, it doesn't really matter which one you believe, because the reasoning works the same for both. So the two definitions that I want to talk about are miracles that defy the laws of nature, and miracles that are just really unlikely. Now, the second one is the one that most people use, and it doesn't really sound all that impressive when it's described that way, does it? Something that's just really unlikely. But that's how people typically talk about it, such as, my mom had stage 4 ovarian cancer, and I prayed to God that it would go away, and it went away. The doctor said it was a miracle. That's great. Cancer goes into remission. That's a thing that happens. Okay. How do you know that the cancer went into remission because your God directly intervened? Or, how do you know it didn't just go into remission without your God's intervention? How do you know your prayer had any effect on it? The miracles that defy the laws of nature would be things like Saint Giuseppe, who was famous for flying. That was one of the miracles he performed. He could fly. Cool. How do we know that Saint Giuseppe was flying because of his belief in God? What if some other reason was why he was flying? And I don't even necessarily mean some weird freak of nature misunderstanding that we just can't figure out right now. I mean like some other god made him fly. I mean that he was in some kind of tractor beam from some people that went back in time and shot a tractor beam at him. You know what I mean? How do we know that wasn't the reason that he was flying? How do we know that it is specifically the cause of Yahweh? How do we know that? And that's the problem. The event existed. Just like with the personal experience, the feelings exist. But the reasoning behind it, or the reasoning that you use to support the event that happened, you cannot show it actually happened. So let's go ahead and use Aliens Guy, and this is the guy from the first video. Aliens Guy is a guy who stands in as someone who does not, or who has a belief you do not believe in. And we're using him not to make fun of anyone, but we're using him to show that you wouldn't accept this as evidence either. So Aliens Guy says the same thing. Aliens Guy genuinely believes that there are benevolent aliens that telepathically communicate with him. This is not something I've made up. There are people that actually believe this. And Aliens Guy said, my mom had stage 4 cancer. Now, I really begged the benevolent aliens to somehow intervene and cure her of cancer, because I know that they have the power to cure cancer. They've told me. And you know what? My mom doesn't have cancer anymore. She's cancer-free. I know it's because of my communication with the benevolent aliens. Would you accept that as evidence that the benevolent aliens are real? Probably not. So why would you expect me to accept what you said as evidence of your particular God? You are probably coming up with all the reasons that this is not true. Maybe this person was mistaken. Maybe this person's lying. Maybe this person's mom's cancer went into remission and it had nothing to do with aliens. You didn't even show that aliens are real. Why would I believe that aliens are real? I've never even seen aliens. We don't even have any evidence of aliens. What if the mom was getting chemotherapy treatment, but they kind of forgot to mention that, and so they, even though that it went into remission because of chemotherapy, they actually just attributed it to the aliens or whatever. You've probably had all these ideas running in your head of why you wouldn't believe that aliens had cured the cancer. And when you tell me that God or Allah or what have you cured cancer, those are all the same things running through my head. And those are all the things that you have to be able to explain. I guess you don't have to. You have to if you care about truth. If you care about really understanding the world around you and really understanding why you believe what you believe, then you do have to be able to explain, this is how I know that a benevolent God that I talked to specifically sent some kind of healing ability down to my mother, removed her cancer, and I know this because... And you have to be able to give an explanation. If any explanation comes to mind, whatever it is, put it back on Aliens Guy. If Aliens Guy gave you that explanation, would you believe it? If you wouldn't, then please don't expect anyone outside of your faith, or an atheist, so outside of all faiths, to believe it either. And if you wouldn't believe it, if you wouldn't accept it as evidence for aliens that are benevolent and communicate telepathically, then why do you accept it as evidence for your personal God? That being said, if you guys have any questions or comments, feel free to post it in the comment section below. If there's any evidence that you want me to discuss, whether you're atheist or theist, feel free to post that in the comment section as well. If you like what I have to say and want to check out like exclusive videos and blogs and other stuff, that's on Patreon for as little as $1 a month. And if you want to contact me in ways that are not on YouTube, that's also in the details section below. But as always, thanks for listening.